This is my only problem with Tai Lopez.
Don't ever call me a scam, brother. For people, I launched a generation of entrepreneurs, me and a couple of guys. And of course you're going to get hate because I'll tell you this.
Have you
Isn't
not?
it ironic the biggest trend is 6-7 and I launched 67 steps?
Why?
There's 3 things women discriminate on the most. And that's a fucking miracle peptide. If you're on gear.
I've never heard in an interview. Do you believe in Jesus? Are you a Christian?
I'm not smart enough to answer.
Bro, my hairline's chalked, Ty. I need to go.
I inherit charisma.
Are you a looks maxer, Ty?
So my take on clavicular and all these guys.
Here in my garage, Ty. You know what I like a lot more than materialistic things?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. Dude, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you've done a lot of podcasts, you've talked to a lot of people, and I'm sure so many people reach out to you about how you've impacted their life. And I like to always start a podcast just offering what advice and things that you brought into my life. I'm 22, right? I'm sitting in a college dorm. I grew up in a town that's actually Clayton, New York, not Clayton, North Carolina, less than 1,000 people. Every business was for sale, no opportunity. Grew up there, top of my class, but I had no idea what business was. And I remember in middle school, all my friends would watch your ads here in my garage, all like the spinoffs. It was the best thing ever. But then when I was 17, I met a mentor and he told me if I read books, I'd make millions of dollars in like freaking 100 days. So I went on this huge train. I read Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, Magic of Thinking Big, Compound Effect, Darren Hardy, hundreds of books in self-help. And I started 5 businesses. One was actually with Grant Cardone when I was 17. We did like a tech company with his like 10X incubator program. And through the process, I didn't make any money. Like I was actually losing money, went to college for a whole year, then dropped out. And until I found a video, which I don't, this is not one of your mainstream videos. You were sitting, I think maybe with Alex talking about how to do SMMA. And in the video, you said, SMMA is cool, but there's this other thing called the WFA, which is website funnel agency. And you've never brought it up, or at least to my knowledge, it wasn't like a recurring theme, but I took it. And in 1 month, I made 10 grand when I was 18. I went from like $18 in my bank account. I was homeless for like a week. And I'm not even joking, like on the streets of Savannah, Georgia. And then I made 10 grand in a month, thought I was the big shit, spent all the money partying and being a degenerate. And then was like, okay, I'm going to reel it back. Anyway, the point I'm making now to this day, I'm 22. So it's been a few years. I've published 4 books to Amazon. I've made 200K with my marketing agency that I still run. I've been all over the country, lived in all these places, been to Bali, and my podcast is doing really well. But I attribute a lot of the success to the early teachings that you had, right? A lot of people think you're controversial, a scam, whatever. Yeah. I am on the other side of it. And I know that what you have taught me, I'd take the scam thing and I'm like, okay, is this true? No. And I take the positive information you give to the world and I've applied it and made an insane difference. So I want to thank you for that, man.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That's awesome. And yeah, people look, here's my take on any single person who builds a personal brand. You're going to be called a scam. Now Elon Musk gets called a scam, even though he's built $2 trillion company. One thing that I will tell people is stay humble, listen to even your haters. There's always a bit of truth in hate. So there's been people, I remember there was a part where I got a lot of hate for showing luxurious lifestyle. And some people thought it was fake, but I focus on what your best friends say about you. The second your best friends tell you, hey, bro, you're selling out, that is a serious. But my friends that knew me, I own nightclubs. I had my first Lamborghini, Ferrari, Maserati in 2005. So when I was posting in 2015 and all the hate was coming in that Ty, this is fake luxurious lifestyle. My friends are like, dude, Ty's been doing this for a decade. Or people would see me with women and like, dude, in 2003, you had the biggest clubs in Raleigh, North Carolina. So but I do listen to haters. And I was like, you know what? At some point, I was like, I probably am being too materialistic. So then I started posting about my farm. And now I'd say 30% of the people who follow me are like, fuck all the Lambos. I love that you have, forget a Ferrari. I like you got a John Deere tractor, So I do tell people, like, stay humble enough to know sometimes your haters have some truth to it. You know what I mean? So look, I built a brand. You know what I did that was different than other people? I remember purposely thinking, I try to be I have a whiteboard. Charlie Munger says, you want to change your life? You need more assiduity. What does that mean?
Sit your ass in
a chair and write stuff out. Old school, no phone. So like when I was I launched my personal brand in 2009. Okay. I know because I found a video on my iPhone memories where I'm with Zach, my friend, and we're at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, and I go, dude, there's a new thing called an app. Apps were new. It's like there's a new app by YouTube where I can just, instead of going home to my computer to uploading this video, I'm gonna upload it right here. And Zach's like, oh. So in '09, I was like, oh shit. That's when I started the selfie style. But I was like intentional. One of my intentional things was like not a saint. The second you virtue signal too much, there's only down. And a
Yeah.
lot of dudes virtue signal. I see guys saying, yo, I'm a business influencer, but I don't really care about money. Bullshit. Any dude who has money likes money. Just like
Yeah.
if you go to the gym, any dude who has muscles and he goes, no, I don't really care about how I look. Bullshit. You wouldn't go through the grind of, 50 sets of heavy weight if you didn't care about it. So I was like, I'm not going to build a virtue signaling brand. And there's some downside because people get fooled by virtue signaling. I know a lot of the people that people look up to. I'm like, one of
What,
my
what,
one of my private clients, I just got stuck in a snowstorm. People pay me like I got a 100K program, $1 million program. They shadow me. These are ultra rich guys. This guy's worth, he made about 70 million in crypto. Still has about 50 million. Lost about 20 million, but still has 50-ish million. And I got stuck in a snowstorm with them. So I
where
do a
were you?
shadow.
A snowstorm? Where was
New
that?
York, dude,
That's
Manhattan
where
got the biggest storm since '95.
that's where I'm from, dude. I know all about it.
It
Told
got,
you.
but they shut down all the airports. So anyway, I flew in to just do a 1 hour session with them and ended up couldn't leave. So I spent 2 days with them. And he's known me. He was in my mastermind in 2015. He was a poker player and had about 300 grand. Turned it, been listening to me for about a decade, turned it into 50 million net worth. But he goes, at the end of it, he goes, Ty, you're the most misunderstood person on earth. He goes, and I said, yeah, because I am a sheep in wolf's clothing.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people get tricked. A lot of people are listening to wolves in sheep clothing. So be careful. One of my most viral videos, Sigmund Freud was right when he said, beware of your friend who tells you how good he is. He's often the worst person you'll ever meet. I always say, somebody tells you they're an empath. Oh, I'm an empath. That will be the worst person you meet in that year. So
I,
anyway,
I have a question about this hate thing. I was biking this morning listening to your podcasts, and I love the fact that when your best friend says something about, you know, in today's modern era, you can't go viral without doing something controversial. I started an
yeah,
Instagram last year and I was like, how fast can I get this thing to 1 million views? I did like 12 million in 45 days, just rage baiting the shit out of people intentionally.
yeah,
And I got 8,000 people to quote unquote hate me. I was fine with it. But then one of my friends, like that I know very well, was like, hey, listen, dude, like I don't like what you're doing. And I shut the page down. And
right.
that page had made me 25K too. So I was making money. And so here's the line. I wonder with you, when does Tai Lopez say, okay, I think I pushed it too far? Does like because you do get a lot of hate. A lot of people say you're a scam, but how do you like, go to bed at night and like you push some of the hate aside and you're like, no, that's stupid. And then you actually, you analyze it, psychoanalyze and say, no, actually there's some truth here. Maybe I should adjust the method that I'm doing.
Well, I use this 80-20 rule. So basically, you want 20%, no more than 20% haters.
Yeah.
But understand, haters are about twice as loud. So
Yeah.
my hate ratio is much lower than people realize. So let's say my hate ratio is 15%, okay? I've never hit above 20. Now people go, oh no, I've seen. That's just because haters are loud and people who love you compliment you privately, but people who hate you, just like if you have a business, you could have 500 happy clients. The 501st client who's
Yeah.
not happy,
Shut your
they'll
business
go
down.
write 73
Yeah.
reviews. And your
Yeah.
500 happy clients, they're so happy of people they usually don't write a review. So let's say let's say it's a double ratio. So 1 out of 3 of your comments will be hate. If you go on I'm not even close to that. So there are people like Donald Trump is way more controversial, let's say. If
Yeah.
you need like I have security, but that's only from fans. I've had 2 fans go to prison over the last 10 years. I've never had somebody break in mean. I go out in public, like my son, I have sons, people don't know that. One of my sons is now old enough. He's like, how come everybody likes you? So take it with a
He
grain of
doesn't. Your
salt.
son doesn't know about the garage. That's the problem, Ty. He needs
He's
to know.
too young. No, but my literally yesterday we were out and we got in an elevator and so people just walk in like, "Hey, Ty," and he's like, "How do you know my dad?" And so I probably have a 10% hate ratio. Now, what's interesting, what you do need to pay attention is what percent of your paying customers hate you. So I'll tell you
Yeah.
this, I have a 1% ratio. Let's say the 67 steps. People said that was a scam. I recorded 67 videos that my 5 millionaire mentors taught me. Dude, I have almost a 0% refund rate. I have a 0%. I've never had somebody ever, either in email or in person, be like the 67 steps was shit. In fact, ChatGPT ranks it as the biggest self-development program in modern history. So I pay attention a lot to
Is,
that.
is,
So
is that true? Is that true? The biggest, I feel like there's so
dude,
many courses out there. 67 steps is pretty fundamental. I
no,
didn't,
nothing touches 67 steps. I mean, 5% of the, so I had a free version of 67 steps. People would watch a couple hour videos, and then I had the paid version.
yeah.
Dude, like 5 or 10% of the world watch the free. Nobody's ever even, I love Tony Robbins, but they don't have that scale, especially to the new generation. I mean,
I
guys
have,
like Mr. Beast. I mean, Mr. Beast is in my anybody. If you actually ask ChatGPT the top 10 people who have made money directly from social media, the new money world,
yeah,
I'm
Mr.
on that
Beast, Logan
list.
Paul.
And I'm
Yeah.
on that list, and four of my students are on. So five people that learn from me. So I control 50% of that list, dude. 67 steps. So anyway, my point is, you were asking when to care about haters.
Yeah.
People who don't even imagine you own a restaurant, okay, and you call it the 67 Steps Restaurant, and you get all this hate online from motherfuckers who have never been to your restaurant. I mean, are you going to take it that seriously? Now, if people come eat at your restaurant and die of food poisoning, then you're fucked up. If they're
Yeah.
all the Trustpilot reviews are took my date to eat at Thai 67 Step Restaurant, she's dead now. Then you're in, then you've got something serious. But my hater rate on people who went through SMMA, I mean, it launched a generation of entrepreneurs. Low balls
I,
in there. You got Iman Ghazi, all these guys, almost anybody except the only dude who didn't mimic me is really Gary V because he was 1 year before me. But almost everybody I see
or
people's
Grant. I
pricing.
mean, Grant
Nah,
Cardone.
Grant came. What do you mean? Grant.
I think it's
Grant
like
came to me.
it was like Brad Lee helped Grant, and then
No,
Brad.
don't believe any of those. Or Grant knows, and Grant's a buddy of mine. Grant came to me in 2015. Flew out. What are you doing? Show Grant. Maybe Grant is actually, even though he looks like a really cocky guy, Grant's the most humble guy. He followed mimic my systems closer than anybody. No, Grant, not Grant. Bradley,
Well,
him and Grant have a whole thing. I don't even know. I don't like to get involved in
yeah.
that.
So Brad Lee flew me out to Vegas when I was 20 for at Lightspeed for a week, and I was like helping him with funnels. And it's just like I know the relationship because of like Cardone University and like the whole thing there. But anyway, not to derail. Two questions. One is
Yeah,
the biggest meme this year is like the 6-7 thing, and you're a
yeah.
huge guy when it comes to like first wave trends. Like, why have you
Isn't it
not?
ironic? The biggest trend is 6'7", and I launched 67 steps.
Why
I
haven't you
wonder
done
if
anything,
those
Ty? Why are you not doing that? Like six,
are.
seven.
I often go, did 6'7" start from my 67 steps? I was the first. All these websites I see people charging $67. I'm like, I launched that. All my marketing guys, no one was charging $67. Yeah, so 6'7". I mean, that's for more like, yeah.
Kids.
I don't know. I don't know where 6'7" came from. What is the true origin story? Probably I own the trademark on 67 steps. Maybe I need to enforce my trademark. Let me ask ChatGPT, what the fucking origin? What's the origin of the 6'7" meme?
Because
Maybe it's my 67 step.
you could literally relaunch six. I know you did 67 steps, like part two, the second one. You could
Yeah.
just do it. You could do TikToks, just 6-7. I know I
Yeah.
know it's a little brain rot, but I think you could. It would be like here in my garage part two, but just like attack the new generation of people that are like
Yes.
that's a
Yeah, it
huge
says it came from why is six afraid of seven?
because seven
That's the
eight seven
original
eight
thing.
nine 7 8 9. That's
Yeah.
the yeah. But okay,
It
so
says your brain is doing pattern matching.
how so do you use OpenAI or Claude? Do you prefer one or the other?
Honestly, those are all kind of bullshit. I know I got my brother dies by Claude. I don't know. These companies have massive funding. They steal each other's devs. So there's not going to be a huge edge for a long time, dude. That's not, people don't understand how the world works. It's not like Claude. Look, Mark Zuckerberg he offered the head of Apple AI 200 million to switch. Everybody's been poaching everybody else's dude. So it'll even out, you know. I think that ChatGPT is better on some stuff. Claude Code's probably better on some, but honestly, I build my own AI tools. I narrow the rails. You know, you have wide rail and narrow rail stuff. So really that, like I just launched my high protein app. You should stop tracking calories, just track your protein. So this tracks my protein, has a density score, all that. I just launched it in the Apple Store. I haven't even marketed it yet, but that's a narrow rail application instead of most people are trying to get wealthy with AI by using wide rail applications, which is like just talking to ChatGPT, which is okay. But Claude and ChatGPT, they all hallucinate. Grok, all of them, they're only fed off the available information that they can scrape off the internet. So, for example, if you're a money boy, you're high net worth, ultra high net worth, ChatGPT can destroy you. I own a brand and somebody was infringing on my trademark, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna use my lawyers; they're so expensive. So I just went through ChatGPT and I went pretty deep. I know how to prompt it pretty well. Even then, it came up with the wrong answer. Right before I was gonna do that strategy, I called a lawyer who's done like an old dude who's done 2 trillion trademarks, and he's like, bro, don't do that. Let me tell you why. And so you got to be careful. There's not enough high net worth people don't post their strategies online. So, for example, Warren Buffett, you don't know his asset protection. You think he wrote a fucking blog post on that? Hell no. So ChatGPT is out here scraping all the available ding dong knowledge on complex stuff. So you gotta fucking be careful, like for stupid shit that's widely available, like how much protein should a human eat? Well, let's say 1 gram per pound of body weight. I mean, that's what or of ideal body weight. That's kind of there's 2 trillion scientific studies validating that. But anything niche that's important, you got to be careful with AI because it'll give you it acts it's trained to act confident even when it doesn't know what it's talking about.
Yeah,
So be
yeah.
careful. Don't be building your asset protection tax strategy alone off your 2 prompts of ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think the generation that is just purely on any type of LLM, they're fucked in a way. They won't be able to like discern what is real, what's fake. You said something really
Well,
interesting.
IQs are dropping for the first time in history. IQs are
Yeah.
dropping in the first time in history. They've been going up since whatever, the 1915s, and they're going up right until about the time AI kicked in. And now, I mean, people don't know how to spell anymore because you just go to Google and if you're trying to type anthropomorphism, you just do type in anthro and it starts to do it for you. And now people don't know anything. They're just chat GPT. But I'm going to tell you this. Remember what Jeff Bezos said about making money? Your margin is my opportunity. Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos was saying, oh, all these big companies, they're overcharging for products. I'll put them on Amazon. The fact that they're overcharging to get a bigger profit margin, that big profit margin, I'll just sell it for half the price and he'd build an empire. In the same way, if it wasn't for the stupidity of other people, you wouldn't be able to get rich. So every time I get frustrated with the world, I'm like, this motherfucker is dumb. Then I'm like, oh, thank God that's my competitor.
Yeah.
If you're going to have competitors, if you're playing basketball, you want to be playing with midgets. If you're playing basketball for money, you want to be playing with midgets. So in business, don't be bothered that IQs are dropping, that screen time's at 7 hours. Your humanitarian side should not like it because it's bad for humanity, but
Yeah.
you'll be okay. It's a good thing for you.
Do you see like all the stuff that these young guys? I mean, I'm 22, right? My goal by 30 is like if I can do this, I want to sell a company for $1 billion. That's my moonshot. But you see all these guys, Roy from Cluely or seeing like Cal AI, all these big exits in the AI space. I know some of the founders. One of my buddies, Maverick, he's on Instagram. He gets paid almost 100K a month just from what like an LLM just to make like educational AI content. How does that adjust your strategy? I mean, I know you're a big old like brick and mortar ecom guy, but now like does it readjust like your priority of like, okay, I think here's what I'm going to do over the next 5-10 years. We're pretty early. Maybe this is first wave. We haven't hit second, third wave yet. how does that adjust what you're going to be
Yeah, well,
doing?
I've always been a tech guy, dude. I built ClickFunnels for myself starting in 2005. I had it done in 2009. So I'm more of a tech person than people realize. So I've got my own AI CEO. I've got high protein app. I got a competitor to Headspace, a timeout app.
Yeah.
Dude, you can launch. I like the holding company structure. So I really like narrowing the rails on AI, building multiple apps, getting them in the app store. There's a Turkish app studio doing 38 million a month. Now they're more gaming. There's a Chinese app studio doing 14 million. They own simple apps like identify coins, identify rocks. There's a picture of this app that does plants. I
Oh
think they're
yeah.
doing either 5 or 10 million a month. By the way, people can just you can shoot on your iPhone actually will identify. But people like narrow rail AI stuff. So you don't think of your iPhone as a plant identifier, right? My mom doesn't. So she'd rather have an app called Plant Identifier. So there's a huge opportunity at some point. Look, it's really hard. I've been watching people's predictions. Um, I started my first online business in '01. I've been doing this a long time. The longer you predict out, the more idiotic you look. So I can probably predict what the world will look like tomorrow. But if you ask me my 10-year goals, I'm like, who knows? Quantum computer disruptions. You could have the death of all secure internet happen, which would be you got dead internet theory, which is like nobody's really on the internet anymore and it's dying. I saw
Yeah.
Grant posted on that. There's so many of these long theories. I believe that you should, for most people, especially for you, focus on your 3 foot world. You know,
Yeah.
as Nietzsche said, let every man sweep his own front porch and the whole world will be clean. You can get very
Right.
caught up in looking at massive macro trends and what's going to happen. In general, I can predict 2 outcomes for Earth. We either blow ourselves off the planet with nuclear power. That's with a nuclear bomb, I should say, which has already it's been this way since the 1940s, right?
Easily.
Manhattan
Yeah.
Project. You had the Cuban Missile Crisis, wherever our parents and grandparents were hiding and practicing drills. So you got outcome number one, which if that happens, we're all dead. Just hope the bomb falls right on your head. Okay. As I think Plato or Aristotle said, it's illogical to fear death because death is the cessation of all feeling. So why would you feel fear about death when the definition of death is the end of the ability to feel anything? So then the other outcome is that humans will adapt and survive. And this has been happening not for particularly that long, but let's say 300,000 years, humans have been evolving. So if I'm a betting man, I would say next 1 to 10 years, humans survive. If you ask me what happens 200 years from now, it's too hard. No man has that brain power. Even quantum computers are going to. Have you ever heard of doom theory?
Oh, how the world will end? Is that
No,
what
no,
you're
it's
saying?
basically the odds that AI destroys the world. So
Yeah.
there's people on the doom scale. There's some like the former head of Google is like a 99. Google AI is like a 99 on the doom scale. Then you got people. Elon Musk is like a 20 to 30 on the doom scale. I'm a never doomer. That's my phrase. I belong to the never doom camp, which means um, all defeat is psychological unless you're dead. So until death, all defeat is psychological. There's lots of stories of, I mean, Ulysses S. Grant was a drunk and a failed broke farmer. And a few years later, he was the general that led the North to the victory in the Civil War and became the most popular president. You know, the full chapter of your life probably not been yet written. And the second you look at your life and you think your best days are behind you, that's really the end of your life. That happens to people that are 21.
Yeah.
People are 21. I meet them, oh, bro, my best years were behind me, and now everything. I don't see a future for myself. That's a doomer. And the doomer, you know the real penalty? If you're a doomer, I'm going to tell you the real penalty. I'm a never doomer, but if you're a doomer, let me tell you the real middle class trap. A
Yeah.
doomer curses you, and you know what the middle class trap is? Your max income and net worth will be middle class. And middle class is often the worst. Sometimes it's better to be poor or rich. Here's why. When you're poor, often poor people like in the Philippines are really happy. You stick together with your family, you all live in one big house. Sure, you struggle with some things, but oftentimes in certain environments, now I'm not talking about starvation poor. But I was just in Brazil. Try to spend a month. Brazilians, they've done a meta study of the entire world. Brazilians are the happiest people on earth. But the average income in Brazil is 275 a month. That's minimum wage. Is I think the average income is 400 US a month. So it's actually better to be poor if you have a big family, you all live together, and you just like I grew up without much money. My dad was in prison in Terminal Island, and my mom was a single mom. We moved down to San Diego. We didn't live in the nice part of San Diego, but my mom was a hippie, so we were part of a church, and I didn't even know everybody was broke. My mom probably made 8,000 a year, and all her friends made about the same. One of our friends, the De Leons, they just had one job, which was delivering the newspaper, the reader. Probably
Yeah.
made 16,000 a year, but they were hippies. So they had homeless people. It was funny. He was a true Christian. He believed what Jesus said, which is, love thy neighbor. So every time we'd go to the beach in his big van, he would pick up a homeless guy and be like, "You look like you're down and out." And so you'd go into when I was growing up, everybody was poor and they'd take homeless people in. There'd be two homeless dudes in the rooms. You're like, what the fuck? We'd sleep on the floor. So it's better to be poor or rich. I've been both. What sucks is the middle class trap. What's the
Oh
middle
yeah.
class trap? You're working at a 9 to 5. You live in the suburbs. You're commuting 3 hours a day. You're working for somebody that's a fucktard, and so if you're a doomer, you go right into the middle class. And unfortunately, most people are trained. It's the ancestral curse by their parents to get into the doom middle class trap. The stock market's the middle class trap. People out here investing in the stock market. Oh, I see these stats. Oh, well, I didn't realize if you put $500 for your child when he's 1 year old into an account and it compounds at 10% a year, when they're 65, they'll be a millionaire. And yeah,
That's a
and million.
scam. That's the
Nope.
biggest
Wait,
scam ever.
65 years from now, $1 million will buy you a crack house in Compton. Right now, $1 million house will buy you. People forget about inflation, so they think all these numbers. Oh, I'm so smart. Well, if you just set aside $100 a month for your child, yeah, but money will be worthless. Already, I went to the Grove here in LA. I have 4 homes, so I've been out of California for quite a while, and I came back. 5 of us went to eat at this pizza place, this Italian place. The Grove was fucking. So the bill comes back. Okay. First time I went to this restaurant was in '06. That bill would have been $50. 5 years ago, before COVID, 6 years before, that would have been $100 meal. No joke. It was 345. Middle class trap, dude. You gotta basically be poor without realizing it.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so never doom, my friend. Never doom.
So when it comes to the middle class, you're talking to a guy who escaped that when he was 17 because I saw, and no shame to my parents. My dad is an academic. He was a teacher, amazing guy. He's listening to this podcast. Mom worked really hard. And it's like, it's I don't know if it's because we were fear monger to believe you have to be in a job because it's stability, but it's like no one sees the risk of doing nothing or, working in a job 9 to 5. So I saw that at 17, saw you guys, Grant Cardone, Patrick David, and whatever anyone says about, oh, it's a scam, whatever, I just believed it. I was like, you know what? They have what I want in a lot of capacities. You have like a good physique, you have finances. I will figure out what you're doing instead, maybe not by your course, but you have a personal brand. Okay, I'm going to build that. Why is it so much that people are like stuck in the 9 to 5 middle class route? I think today, like young guys like me probably are a little bit less skeptical towards building a business. But why do you think people just get shoved and funneled down the college, house, kid, car, boom, 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 and then you're dead with like no money in the bank?
Evolutionary biology will explain that. You should read Robert Trivers. He's considered the father of modern, he's a Harvard professor. He's about dead, but the father of modern biology. And basically, there was a Nobel Prize by Daniel Kahneman, those guys, and it says risk aversion. So humans, by very nature, are scared of change. It's the Nobel Prize was won on this, and I think what 1975, 1977. So scientists basically understand now. Like I have a farm, I have cows. It's interesting. They've done these tests on dogs and cows called learned helplessness. So if you take it, these are very unethical tests. They're not allowed to do these anymore. But 50 years ago, scientists would take a dog, stick the dog in a cage that it couldn't get out of and shock it. At first, the dog fought back,
Yeah.
fought back. It would bite, try to push its way out. Then it couldn't get out because it was a metal cage. And then eventually, when he shocked it, the dog laid down.
Yeah.
Now, that's not even the crazy part of the experiment. The craziest part of the experiment is when they
You,
lifted the lid
you take,
off the
yeah.
dog and they shocked it. It was so conditioned to just lay down that it didn't realize it could just step out of the cage. And so what's happened is there was a time in history. Take Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. In 1994, to launch a website, he had to borrow about 150,000 to 200,000 from his parents. That's the equivalent of about $1 million in today's
Yeah.
dollar. Okay. So it was really hard in the 1990s to go from poor to wealthy because Jeff Bezos, if he didn't have rich parents, he wouldn't have been able to do it. Now we fast forward to today when you can launch a Shopify store for free or for $7, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
We have been conditioned by our parents and society that we're still in this cage and you're being shocked. If you watch the news, what do most people talk about? Oh, Tai, it's the economy, it's the Ukrainian war, it's the Afghan. I understand there was a time in human history for many centuries that you were predestined to be stuck in the income of your parents. That's why people have the name John Smith. Your dad was a blacksmith. John Cooper. Your dad was a made barrels. He was a cooper. Now you fast forward to today, you can just do things. But most people, not only environmentally did you learn to lay down in the cage like the dog, but they call it epigenetics. You can actually inherit the mental state of your parents, okay, through the womb. Mothers pass on their psychological state. So we come out of a weird time. Most people alive now come from parents who environmentally and genetically had been pre-programmed for learned helplessness. So
Yeah.
now guys just go, a few guys. I mean, I was one of the first people. I launched a generation of entrepreneurs, me and a couple of guys. And of course, you're going to get hate because I'll
Yeah.
tell you this, who really gets the most hate? Is the first dog to step out of the cage. You would think the dog that stepped out of the cage, the other dog will be like, well, hot dog. No, but those people say, oh, that's because that dog cheated.
Do you know the crabs in the bucket analogy? It's like very similar,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So crabs in the bucket. That was one of the first concepts I learned. And it's so interesting because the way I got into business, it wasn't directly through you. It was my mentor introduced me to Amway, the MLM world. And I remember the day I came home and I was like, Dad, I'm gonna make $1 million. And he like it wasn't even like, oh, good for you. It was just ruthless, like, shut the fuck up, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And I just like but I started laughing because I heard about crabs in the bucket. I've heard about these analogies, and whether it's even true or not, I don't care because it was enough to satisfy my brain of like, if you try to escape and do something good with your life, will pull you down and they will stop you. And so
Right.
I lost all my friends. Everyone's like, you're changing, you're different now. And I remember my dad every day. How much money did you make today? And for a while, it was like for a year, I made nothing. So I was like, nothing, nothing, nothing. I made 10 grand in a day. And I remember my dad's like, oh, how much you did make today? It's like, Dad, I made 10 grand. And it was the
Mm.
first moment. Like last year, I made more than my parents. And I'm 22, right? So it's like first time in my life where it's like, now my dad respects what I'm doing and he sees like the value I bring to my clients. I'm working with enterprise level like hospitals around the country, scaling them on social media. So it's like it's different now. But at the beginning, most people they hit the wall of their parents, their friends. Hey, don't start that business. Don't listen to Tai. He's gonna scam you. He's gonna take your $67, whatever it is, and no one ever tries to break free.
Yeah, it's kind of like, network marketing. My mom did network marketing. My mom was, like I said, a single mom, didn't have much money. And I went back and looked at the house that I grew up in. It's crazy. Like I was living at the time when I went back to San Diego, I was living in Beverly Hills in a 17,000 square foot, 17 bedroom, 18 bathroom house, 1 acre. And I went back and looked at the house that I grew up in because I thought it was big when I was a little kid. It
Yeah.
might be, I don't know, 900 square feet or something like that. But my mom, here's an interesting way to think about this and understand. So in our evolutionary past, if you were too unconventional, 9 out of 10 times you died. So
Mm,
a dude who lived in the 1300s in Bergen, Norway, when the bubonic plague came.
yeah.
Okay, the weird dude who was unconventional died because he was a loner and he didn't have anybody to nurse his wounds. So about, I don't know, half of the world died from bubonic plague wherever it hit. So I was just reading, I was in Bergen, Norway, and I was looking at the history there. It used to be the biggest in the Hanseatic League. It was like this famous city, right?
Yeah.
So everybody died. But and the unconventional people died first. So the genetics of the unconventional tended to not reproduce. The whole world came from the world that we live in now comes from 40% of the men in the past. 60% of the men in the past did not procreate successfully. Okay.
Yeah.
Men get penalized in the gene pool. They now call it incel, but it's not. Incel is not the right word. It's literally a genetic penalty for not being adaptable in the correct way. It's called adaptive. So it wasn't adaptive. So in the past, if you were a little bit weird, you were lost.
Yeah.
Okay. So we inherited the genes. I call it the whisper of 10,000 generations. In our subconscious, it's like, that's weird. Nobody else is doing it. Now you fast forward to modern times where you have modern tools.
Social
Probably
media.
the first, well, no, I'm going back. The big tool at first was antibiotics.
Oh,
So
right.
now you have a tool. Half children used to die. Now parents got a tool that you could just give them penicillin and they would live. So that was the first tool. All of a sudden, the world started to change. Now the unconventional, weird people, because there was basic tools to keep you alive, started to win. And the first guy who really spoke of this was Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein, I love his quote. The thing about smart people is they seem weird to dumb people.
Yep.
So by the 1900s, all of a sudden the weirder unconventional people who went against the societal norms, all of a sudden they were the smart people. But
Yeah.
we still have our ancestral ancient brain. Your brain has only changed about 1% per 10,000 years. So we have the same brain as the pre-Roman Empire brain.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so now it makes the world could be no other way except smart people would seem weird to dumb people. In 2013, I was telling people, hey, college is a scam for most people. If you're going to be a medical doctor, maybe it's fine. But if you're getting my brother got a Spanish degree, 4 years, UNC Chapel Hill, went 80 grand in debt. By the time he paid it off, he spent over 250,000. He was depressed for years over that damn student loan. I said, why didn't you just go to Spain, get a job in a Spanish restaurant? You'll be fully fluent in a year, or find a hot girlfriend in Spain. Guys learn languages really fast when it's a girl who doesn't know their language. I
Easily.
had a friend
Yeah.
who learned Czech, which is one of the hardest languages, Czech Republic. I said, how'd you learn? He's like, dude, I met a Czech girl who was so hot and didn't know fucking any English. He's like, in 5 months, I was fluent. So my
Yeah.
brother wasn't going to take the unconventional route because he inherited the ancestral mind that's like, oh, if you're weird, you die.
Yeah.
Now the world has almost flipped. If you're normal, you die
Yeah.
now.
You know
If
what's
you're normal, you die financially.
Yeah, what's interesting about the college thing, I left, so I've been to college and I dropped out 4 times, which is like no one has ever done that. I might be the
No.
first, I might be a little retarded, but my degree that I'm sitting in this dorm right now, I'll graduate with 100K in debt, which a lot of it I paid off with my business, is in acting. And it's like the stupidest thing ever. I'm at one of the most expensive art schools in America. And, I use acting in sales, whatever. I'm good at like NLP or whatever it is when I'm closing deals. But it's like, yeah, I love your story. You always talk about the guy who got the English degree, and you're like, he freaking speaks English. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
be one.
Anytime somebody says, Ty, you're a scam for selling a course on how to launch a social media marketing agency, I'm like, let me tell you a bigger scam. I got a better one. Okay. The number one degree in America that people go into debt for is an English degree. Now, imagine you're an alien coming from another planet. So you land on in America and you find out that one of the most profitable parts of the US government is interest on the loans of its 18 to 22 year olds. So actually, America is a little bit built off the back of slave repayments for 18 to 22. What happens to a country that tries to make its money off its youngest people? Well, that's what America does, and you can't discharge it with bankruptcy. So anyway, then I get weirder. So the alien goes, okay, Tai Lopez, is he a scam? He's teaching people for $1,000 how to build a marketing agency. He's launched 40,000 of them. Millionaires, people worth 100 million have come out. On the other side, English degree. Okay. So then the first question the alien would be like, okay, it's a language. So that could make sense. You go 4 years to learn a new language. So then the alien goes, what's the language of America? When you start school, English. So I need to hire the fucking sales guy that was able to sell an English degree to American kids who speak English. That gotta be a fucking. I'm gonna go to Spain and be like, bro, I'm gonna teach you Spanish. Pay me 80,000. That's the best. They say, that old cliche. It's like he could sell whatever ice to an Eskimo or some shit like that.
Yeah.
No, the ice to Eskimo guy is inferior. Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street is inferior to the dudes out there. There's college admissions people like, yeah, I know it's a great use of your life. English. I saw that less than 30% of Americans use their college degree ever in their life. So
Easily, hands down.
don't ever call me a scam, brother.
I love it. All right, we got 10 minutes. I want to do some rapid
Yep.
fire.
Sure.
Yeah, before we do the rapid fire, I have one bone to pick with you, and this is my only problem with Tai Lopez. You have the framework of the good life: health, wealth, love, and happiness. And I love people who give me frameworks on a complete scale, like, oh, I can apply this to my life. And I've thought about this for 5 years. Health, perfect. I got great health. Wealth, I'm building my empire. Love, I even broke it down. We have family relationships, friends, and romantic partners. So that's like a subset there. But the only thing is happiness, right? So you say happiness is the fourth pillar of the good life. And two things. One, happiness is conditional, right? I will be happy if this, then this, which is temporary. But then the second thing is, I never knew what you defined happiness as. And I saw in a video, you're like, it's the compass, right? When you wake up, like, are you in the right direction? I think I think this framework needs revisiting. And this is the only thing. I think it's health, wealth, love. And my fourth one would be self. It rhymes, but it's also like
Self? You said
self.
like yourself?
Yeah, like self. Like, what is, people could say purpose? What is the freaking, what's direction you're going in life? But it's like, it also correlates to the other components. I just think happiness, it's the only one that doesn't fit the mold of the good life. Or it could be joy.
Well, okay, let me think. I mean, look, some of this is semantics, right? In Chinese, they don't know what the word happiness. So some of it's just a language thing. But the reason I put happiness is, think of it this way. Forget emotion for a second. Think of the scientific definition of happiness. So happiness to a scientist is not a spiritual thing. Happiness is a culmination where you feel tranquil, at peace, things like this. Okay. I think most countries in the world, if you go to a bushman in Africa and you say their word for happiness, it's going to translate to somewhat a state of well being, peace, but emotionally, right? Happiness would be because you could lose your arm and a year later be happy without an arm. So it's a mental state, not so much. That's why I put health separate. So you got physical health, financial wealth, social love, which and by the way, each of my four break into the three. So that's the 12 foundations. So let me tell you how I break down happiness. So I break down happiness into three subsets. So you were saying that happiness is like, what did you say?
It's like well, in one of your videos, you're like, it's the compass, right? You wake up and like, how are you?
Yeah, that's my definition. But you said something else. You said,
Oh, so self. That was like what I would replace it with.
yeah, that's very Freudian. Sigmund Freud called it wish fulfillment, right? So like, but what scientists have found now is that fulfilling your wishes doesn't always make you happy. So for example, the dude who sleeps with 100 girls and never on a one night stand, he's fulfilling his sexual wish, but sometimes his happiness can go down from that. A man who feels happier when he drinks alcohol in the long run. So what you have to delineate is, number one, the 12 foundations, the three under happiness, is momentary happiness. But this is a big one that most people know: momentary happiness. Memory happiness is huge. So Daniel Kahneman. So I define happiness. And then the third one, you can either call it spiritual or nature happiness. Okay. So if you look at the happiest people on earth, and how do they define happy? Once again, they look at people who are tranquil, feel good, positive. They call it positive affect. Okay. They tend to be people in nature. So, for example, in America, in the modern world, the happiest people, lowest anxiety. The author of Guns, Germs, and Steel, Jared Diamond, won a Pulitzer
I love
Prize.
that book. That's a
He
great
was
book.
at my house. He's like, "Tai, you live with the Amish? I study them. They have 500% or the mainstream society has 500% more anxiety than the Amish. The Amish live, I have a farm in the middle of an Amish community. 99% of the Amish live outside of large urban cities and they live close to the land. Native Americans were happy. The Taino Indians in Puerto Rico and
Yeah.
Columbus went there. It's like these are the happiest people on earth. They were living in a blissful environment. So I think when I think about happiness, it's a goal in my four pillars. So how do I move there? I optimize momentary happiness. It is true you should have some momentary happiness
Mm.
when you're having sex. That's functional that you feel pleasure, or else nobody would have kids. Uh, when you drink sometimes and you're with a whole bunch of friends, as long as you don't drink too much, that momentary happiness can actually be positive. But if it fucks up your memory happiness, so let's say you go out with friends, instead of just drinking one, like what I do is get one tequila. Tequila, good
Clase
tequila is the health.
Azul. I love Clase
Yeah,
Azul.
or even better is better than Clase Azul, but
Like
the
what?
healthiest drink
Clase
for
Azul is
people,
great.
yeah, is tequila. If you're gonna drink anything, tequila has the most science behind it. Wine, maybe tequila. So if I take one, what I do is I get the best. There's a tequila bar in LA that has a $500 shot. It's like the best tequila. You don't have to spend that much, but let's say a $60 shot, and I drink that one with an ice cube all night. So what happens is my momentary happiness is going up because I'm out with friends. I'm not the one fucking annoying one. That's not, especially if I live part-time in Scandinavia. If you don't drink in Scandinavia, you're kind of a misfit, right? Swedish, Danish, Norwegian, the Finnish, Icelandic, they all drink. But my memory happiness the next day doesn't suffer because if you black the fuck out, get punched in the face, throwing it up the next morning, your momentary happiness went up, but your memory happiness went down. I tell people, take your money. I have great memories. My friend Zach, a lot of people followed him on my social. He died sadly of leukemia a couple years ago. But I have great memories with him that I can revisit in my mind. My grandma died at 102. Sometimes I pretend like I know this sounds insane, but I sometimes to fall asleep when it's a stressful day, I pretend like I'm a teenager again and I'm at my grandma's house. She had a couch. I'd always fall. She was German. She had this couch from Europe and I'd always fall asleep. And sometimes I go back into my memories and I find, dude, meditation, that can beat meditation for me. So
Mm.
to me, the four pillars are aspirational. So if you'll understand why happiness, it is a goal to shoot for. Feeling at peace is a powerful thing. All the money in the world wouldn't matter. Imagine I gave you two lives, Alex. Life A, you're going to have the best physical health. You'll be a machine physically, muscles, 0.6 golden ratio, waist to hip to shoulder ratio, everything. Your health is A. B, wealth. You're making 1 million a week. I got a friend who was in Puerto Rico. He makes 1 million a day profit. He's gonna do but he's been doing a while, but he's gonna do about 350 million profit this year. Pays 4% tax because he's in Puerto Rico. So he's got what? Love, friends, family, romance. You got kid. You want kids?
That's a debated question. Bradley actually asked me the same question. I don't know. I think for legacy, yes. When I'm 30, I'll pop kids out like crazy. I'm 22.
Average billionaire had their first kid at 30, younger than you think.
Yeah, 30. That's what I said. That's pretty good.
But I'm saying if you had health with love, but
Mm.
you felt tumultuous when you woke up,
Yes.
you felt something is missing. Why would you want that life? Or you could have average health, average wealth, average love, but when you wake up, you feel at bliss. That's the whole concept of almost every religion on earth. Is there something that transcends the
Yeah.
physical body? Whether you're
Yeah.
into transcendental meditation, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Christian, Muslim, they talk about another life.
Yeah.
But what Jesus Christ said is the kingdom of God is inside of you, that heaven and earth can come now
Yeah.
to the person. So that's why I said I think the happiness one is really the most important, and you'll get there by three ways:
Yeah.
optimizing for momentary happiness, memory happiness, and nature. You will come. There's a reason Jesus Christ, every prophet in the Bible went into the desert for 40 days. They weren't in Jerusalem. They weren't in the big cities.
Yeah.
And Muhammad was outside of the cities. So I think we forget some of the practical things, like where's your farm, Alex?
I grew up right near a farm. Like
Where's
you
yours though?
I'll buy a farm. I'll buy one right now. No, actually my buddy called me.
Every rich man in history, first thing he did was buy a farm. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates own the most farmland. You go back to the Roman Empire, Julius Caesar used to come back from war in Gaul and be like, I can't wait to go to my place outside of the city. Augustus Caesar, the richest man in history, had 20% of global GDP was his net worth. That's 20 trillion in today's dollars. He makes
Yeah.
Elon Musk look like an amateur. He lived outside of Rome sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Genghis Khan, he conquered the big cities. He attacked whatever, Vienna or Bucharest or whatever. Then he headed back to the Mongol plains, you
Yeah.
know?
It's good. It's good. Um, I would love to keep talking, but I want to do a quick little rapid fire and then we'll wrap the podcast.
Let's do it.
This has been great. First question. I've never heard in an interview. Do you believe in Jesus? Are you a Christian?
I can't, yes and no. I believe, if you mean actually believe in what Jesus said, I tend to lean towards maybe not all of it. To
Like
believe what the modern Christians thinks the Christian religion is, I think they distorted. I think they forgot what Jesus actually said. So
okay.
too hard
Got it.
to answer.
Okay. Well, I guess the second question, if you died right now, do you believe like at some point in your life you'll go to heaven or whatever that is? Or do you think more scientifically you're just going to become atoms in the cosmos?
I'm not smart enough to answer.
Mm, nice. All right. Question number three. You've read so many books, and there's a lot of books that have incredible insight. If you gave one book to an 18-year-old Tai Lopez to help him with his future, it doesn't have to be to become the wealthiest man. What would the book be and why?
In the modern world, The One Thing by Gary Keller, so
That
that
is
you
my favorite
focus.
book. That
There you
book
go.
changed my life. That I read it on a
There you
plane flying across the country, and I was so distracted. I locked the fuck in and I have not looked back since. I shut all like I had five little businesses, whatever, shut them all down, locked in on one thing, marketing, and never looked back.
Yeah, I made that book famous. Gary Keller, the owner, is like, I launched that book for 3 years. No one ever bought it. Then literally one day I posted it on my book blog and he got the most. It's still a bestseller. It's
It's a
it's a great book. Yeah.
it's a great book. What is this is the final one. You talk a lot about fitness. What does your current workout split look like? What do you do to stay in shape? Is it strength training? Is it cardio?
I spent $1 million between 2015 2020 before all these biohackers are doing it called $1 million body protocol. I came with something called the 150 body.
Yeah,
Scientists say right now we have the technology to live to 150. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, heavy weights. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, ideally things like the Norwegian 4x4s, VO2 max, sprinting, sports. So 3 day, I paid all the best trainers. I worked out with Dorian Yates, Mr.
yeah,
Olympia, won 6 or 7 of them. You, if you work out hard and you're not on steroids, 3 times a week is max. If you're on gear, I've done steroids, I've done a cycle of before. Then you can work out 5 or 6 days. But the problem with going on gear is your sperm count essentially goes to zero. I'm not a
yeah,
huge fan of things that take your number one reproductive KPI and put it, you'll go from like 100 million sperm to
10
1 million or
million.
less. Yeah, you're no
Yeah,
less if you go on enough gear. So people, it depends how old you are. If you're sub 35, you should be maxing out weight. After 35, you're maximizing the chance you don't get hurt.
yeah.
My dad was a pro bodybuilder. He was on the cover of Mr. Universe, Joe Weider's Mr. Universe magazine. My dad stayed young in his 60s. He was dating women that were 35. When my dad got hurt, my dad had the world record bench press at one time. He benched like
What? Your dad did
28,
that?
28. Yeah, in the 1950s, dude. My dad started early. Yeah, if you,
Jeez.
I posted, Danny Hester posted the magazine with my dad on the cover. Danny Hester's Mr. Olympia winner. But when my dad hurt his thumb and couldn't bench press anymore, dude, he aged like you've never seen. Like in 2 years, he gained like 10 years of age on his face.
Oh shit.
So you're as young as your injuries. So I like things. If you can get a doctor get you BPC 157, that's a fucking miracle peptide. I don't know if everybody should take it, but that shit is it's so powerful. When I took it, I had to Google ChatGPT. I went to ChatGPT the next day and I was like, is it possible overnight my shoulder injury feels better? And it's like BPC 157 can work in 12 hours. So if you got a good medical doctor, go visit that motherfucker and be like, yo, I got injury. So after 35, you're non-injury maxing. So do higher reps with lower weight. I worked out with Flex Wheeler. Arnold Schwarzenegger said Flex Wheeler had the best body of all bodybuilders. And he told me 20s will set you free. When you work out with Flex Wheeler, he makes you do 20 reps of everything. Do 5 sets of 20 and you go lighter, but you can still get a beautiful. A lot of the body weight dudes look great, man.
Oh
You see these
yeah,
motherfucking
yeah.
body weight guys. Boy, that's a guy in Australia. I do think you should hit for dudes. You need to hit heavy weights, man.
Are you a looks maxer, Ty?
So my take on clavicular and all these guys, Grego Gallagher is one of my private clients. He's like the original looks maxer. Money is a man's makeup. So um, and women have something called FDS, frequency dependent selection. Women do not all fall into one category. Nature doesn't work that way if you have half a brain. So there are women who specifically are high on their weightings of looks. So if you looks max, you will get women who prioritize looks. I think about 20% of women massively care about looks, massively. Now, if
Mm.
you're watching this and you're a 5'1" dude, there's three things women discriminate on the most.
Height,
Okay.
yeah.
Height, hair,
Bro, my
height,
hairline's chalked, Ty. I need to go
height,
trim it.
hair, and charisma. Let me actually say height, hair, and status. So you got to have two of those where
Yeah,
you're only chopped. Now, and by the way, status is so powerful that you can be, I know Kevin Hart, you could be 5'1". I think he has his hair, but he could be bald and 5'1". He's got enough status. Women have an algorithmic brain. So to understand, actually, my first course I ever built, but I never launched it, was the algorithm of 12. It was the 12 calculations a woman makes for attraction. So looks are very frequency dependent. If I take 1,000 women, the good news is 20% of them literally don't care about looks. There's about 20%, maybe 15. And there's actually women who select against pretty boys. So you have to understand there's a lot of media bias. You see a guy who's really good looking, looks maxing, he has women with him. Yeah, but I can show you ugly dudes who have money who also have women. Now, I will tell you, status is more powerful than money. I
yeah.
know I got in my phone 12 guys on the Forbes list I could text right now. Let me not insult everybody. I've never met a billionaire who's good with women. Now they
Yeah.
exist, but in my experience, they tend to be horrific at it because they're single focus guys. So men, if you're not, you don't need to be super rich. Um, I have a system called the 13 thesis. Have you seen my 13
Yeah,
thesis?
yeah, I've seen it.
So
Yeah.
women have an algorithm of five. Most important, if you can't remember all 13, here's five. Women, the more of these archetypes you embody, the better you'll do in your mate choices. So number one, the surfer. The ideal physical archetype that most women are attracted to is the surfer archetype. So muscular, not overly muscular, still athletic, powerful shoulder to waist ratio. Or you can do chest to waist ratio, 150. Your chest around the widest point is 150% bigger than your waist. So if your waist is 30, if you can get a chest close to to 45, that's
Yeah.
the surfer archetype. It doesn't have to be exactly that. Then the second archetype women like is the James Bond. So it's not that you're rich, but you do have a nice car, you have a nice place, you take them to nice restaurants. That is a good archetype. Not necessarily a billionaire. James Bond, I don't think was a billionaire. Then the third archetype women are attracted to is the Clark Kent, the Superman nerd. So women like the Clark Kent because it's called the sexy sun theory. Women know that IQ is about zero point 0.7 heritability. So that means out of 1,000 people, 70%, you can explain 70% of the IQ by just genetics. So women want a smart guy because their children will do better. The next one, the next archetype is the rock star. So you don't have to be. I remember there was a time, two times in my life before I was well known globally. One was in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was locally famous. I was a little rock star in just little Raleigh, North Carolina.
Like the
When I moved
nightclubs,
to
right?
LA, yeah, when
Yeah.
I moved to LA after 2006, it took me about 3 years and I was kind of a local celebrity. Um, so you need to have, if you're a dude, go to the same restaurant, tip the valet the same. So when you roll up, they're like, Mr. Davis, how are you? That's a
Yeah.
local. Watch one of the opening scenes of Goodfellas when he takes this new date to Copacabana. It's one of the great scenes in the film. And then the fifth archetype, can you guess what it is, Alex? Give you a pop quiz.
Christian Grey from 50 Shades of Grey.
No, that's not. That's the James Bond, by the way. The
Oh,
fifth one is spiritual artist.
oh,
Hide your girl
like a
from the guy who
creative,
could.
like a creative, like
Hide
a,
your girl from the dude who could play the guitar, bro.
wait, that's
For
rock. That's
sure.
Rockstar, isn't it? No, no?
No, rock star is more celebrity. The
Oh,
artist, the poet.
got it.
There's a dude I see who's like a redheaded guy, and he just reads his poetry on Instagram. Look, imagine that dude's DMs will have the same amount as Justin Bieber's.
Yeah, I bet.
He just reads his poem, and he has like a deep voice, and he's a redhead. Women usually don't even like redhead. He's on the subway, and he'll be like, "I was challenged to," he reads this like kind of romantic poem. No, you don't let your girl find his account, brother.
Let's
She's
see.
gonna be in his DMs like, oh my God. So if you you need ideally three. Very few men have all five, but that's what you need to know about women.
No, it's great. Yeah. Tai Lopez,
You
thank
could
you for coming
you
on the
could
show,
add a
man.
sixth one, by the way. The farmer
Okay.
who can chop wood, the
Oh, yeah.
wood chopper.
Like,
Women like that too.
no, switch that to redneck. It has to be like the redneck truck guy.
Not all women like rednecks though.
No, no, no. Like the jacked redneck dude driving a truck. Like this is the in where I came from, and probably you too. Like the farmer dude, like the country boy, like that archetype was
Yes.
the thing. Or like
But
frat guy.
I'm looking for global archetypes that work in every society. I
Oh,
would say the outdoorsman. That, but
wait,
I kind of put that under the spiritual one. So if you're not a poet, if you don't play the guitar, nature is spiritual. So I have my farm. Nature in itself is the definition of spiritual.
yeah, that's great. Thanks for
Good
coming on the
man.
podcast, man. This has been
Thanks for
great.
having me.